All right, guys. So we're here today in the studio, the Protocol Studios here in Holland, to talk about my song, which I just finished, Ready to Rumble, and it's out now on Protocol, of course. I got a lot of questions about how I produce songs and how I do the mastering, all kind of plugins and all that. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about the production of this song. Honestly, this song, Ready to Rumble, it kind of is the sound that I started with. It sounds a little bit like Sound of the Underground or, for example, Flash. And there's a couple of things in the project that I wanted to go through with you guys. As you see, I'm working with Logic X, and basically because I'm so much used to Logic that I don't want to switch to Ableton or to Studio One. So I think that the audio engine of Logic sounds great, and I don't know, the key commands are easy for me to use. So therefore, I go with Logic X. It's not a really advanced production. The real key of this song is simplicity. Somehow, less is more. That's what they say. Well, this song is just not so many elements, and that's why it was not so hard to produce. The real trick is the mix down, because it's like an offbeat bass, and you really want to make sure that the bass works well with the kick and the bass and everything. Mastering wise, it's very important that you squeeze them well together and that you EQ them well together so one does not interfere with the other. So the drop of this song, as you can see, there's only a couple of things playing. It really is a kick drum. There's like a synth, and that's layered to a couple of other synths, and there's two different basses and some effects. So that's all that's playing really in the first part of the drop. So if I would solo them one after the other, there is the kick. And I've shortened the kick here because otherwise it would be too long and then it would interfere with the bass. So the kick you can actually make them short in a couple of ways. You can use fade outs, or you can use my plugin, whatever you wish that you whatever you prefer using. You can use my plugin by just using one of these here. This way it will make your kick shorter, as you can hear. But I just use this way. I just use the fade out function and I just shorten the kick. Then there's the bass, and the bass is played in an F. So this is the top bass I'm using here, and that's really just playing offbeat MIDI information. It's the massive and it's EQ'd very extreme, but it really is the top of the bass. And then there's the sub bass here, and that's doing the same thing at the same time, but just with low frequencies. So I cut off here to about 67 hertz, and the other one is, I think, cut at like, I don't know, like 96. So together it would sound like this. It sounds like nice and tight as one sound, but basically it's two different layers. So then there's the kick. Together it sounds like this. Really brings back old school memories. And there's one thing playing more, that's the sidechain. Normally I used two different kind of sidechain. One is like a compressor from Logic. It sounds really natural, and you can make it sound like there's no sidechain at all. And then of course I have my own plugin that I'm using a lot for sidechain. In this case, I think I've used both. So to make sure that they don't play at the same time, you have to make sure that when the kick is playing, that the bass is gone, like there's zero bass, otherwise it's gonna interfere. So if you listen very carefully, at the moment of the kick there's nothing playing, not even a reverb, nothing, to make sure that the kick sounds solo, and there's nothing else playing. There's a nice tool, I'm not sure if I have it here. It's this plugin here, and you can see what's going on waveform wise on the master. Well, as you can see, when the bass is playing, in between it's almost nothing. And if you look at the kick here, and if it's done right, there should be a kick and then the bass, then the kick, then the bass, and nothing at the same time. So that would look like this. Here. And as you can see, if your mix is right, it should look like this. You can exactly see the transient of the kick because that's where it peaks, and then the rest is bass, and it should look like a transient like this, and then the bass should be in the middle, and it should look like one picture. If there's still bass playing when the kick is playing, it will get harder to mix, and it will sound less good and less. It works less together. So it's really important that you mix them well, and that one bass is not at the same frequency as the other one, that it complements each other, and that it's used as a layer instead of frequencies playing at the same time, because that's gonna phase around and it's gonna make your mix worse. So as plugin wise, I go for the EX24. This is just a really simple sine wave that's playing the same key and the same MIDI information as the top bass. So the only thing I do is I put it an octave lower. This way there's more low frequencies, of course, and you can use more sub. So and then another thing in this song that's really important is the main synth, and it looks and it sounds very easy, and it actually is easy. The main trick behind this all was the arpeggiator from Logic. So this is making the sound interesting, in my opinion. If I would switch it up, it would sound like this. If I switch it on, so this makes it more bouncy, and I think this is a very nice tool of Logic that where you can make an instrument and where you can make a sound very interesting with. There's a couple of different things you can use. I just played around with it until I was satisfied with the result. But you can really use it all kinds of different ways. So if I would use well, actually until you're satisfied with it. But you can use it as arpeggiator. You can use it as a re-trigger. There's many different things that this plugin can do, and it's called MIDI FX of Logic 10, which is a really nice thing. So that is really the main thing going on. Then I have a second layer that's EQ'd a little different, but not so much, and it really is nothing really different than the original piece. So, and with one part by the end of the song, I changed the cutoff of the synthesizer to make it a little more interesting. It's gonna sound like this. And the only thing that changes the cutoff of the main synth. So this is the normal. It's a new layer playing just to make sure that the original layer is not being affected by the cutoff and by the automation. Logic 10 most of the time is not really stable with using automation, so I'd rather go for a new channel, making sure that everything will sound the same and nothing changed by the automation of Logic when it's not necessary. So that is about the main synth, and another few things going on in the song is the percussion. I'll mute a little bit of the rest. I really like to think in a way of making it sound as easy and as simple as possible. There's people that like to use thousands of layers. Well, it can be very cool to use a lot of layers, but it's a lot of mixing work as well. And I'd like to make it as easy and as quick as possible, because the idea most of the time exists in just a couple of hours, and you want to finish the song as quickly as possible. Therefore, I'd like to use samples that I kind of pre-selected already, which by sound and by quality. The sound of the sample is very important for the quality of your mix. If the sample is not clean, it's going to be very hard to mix. And if the sample is clean, you only have to EQ it your way and process it your way, but you know that the source is great. If the source is not great, it's going to affect your mix later on. So the samples need to be as clean as possible to make it easier to mix and to make your total mix sound better. in my opinion. So it's going to be this. A simple clap that's playing on every kick. Well, not so much going on there. Most of the time I do a fade in, or you can use a little bit of sidechain to make sure that the transient of every clap is not interfering with the transient of the kick, because there's just you wanna make sure that your kick punches through your mix. This way you need to make sure that nothing else is playing at the exact same time as the transient of the kick. This way it will make sure that your kick and your mix feels punchy, and that your kick is standing out of the mix. So I always do that with the same kind of instruments. So there's like a head noise playing, and it really is an ESP of Logic doing the same thing. A few hi-hats, same time, very easy, XS24, just because you can load your samples in really quickly. And I have a bank of a couple of different hi-hats that I like to use. You can easily pitch them through your whole keyboard, so that makes it very, very accessible to work with. Together, this is and there's a right here. And the clap here, it really is nothing more than a Vengeance sample layered with another sample. With the clap, it's very important also that you have the pre-clap, in my opinion, which is the clap before the transient of the kick drum. I mean, just a clap like this is not gonna make your track sound very, very how do you say that right? It's very hard to have a clap sounding like a clap in a mix, instead of just if you just do this, it's very hard to put that right in the mix, because if you put it right on the transient of the kick, it's going to interfere. So you want to have it before the mix, before the kick drum and after the kick drum. This way it sounds like a clap, but it's not interfering with the transient of your kick. So one is pre and one is post kick. And I do that trick almost in every song. I also put a little bit of the side chain on the 909 clap. So if you hear very carefully, then you'll feel that most of the transient of the clap is being taken away by the sidechain. This way it will not interfere with your kick. And just another layer for the pre and the post clap. This way it feels like it's on the kick without interfering. So again, I mean, it's just very important that every single sample has its own spot in the mix. And if you want to keep it tight and punchy, nothing should be playing at the moment of the kick drum. Of course it can play, but then it should be sidechained or faded or whatever. And whatever you want to do, I mean, just make sure that the kick is playing solo, at least the transient of the kick. Well, then there's a few effects playing. There's the downlifter and the uplifter, and a simple snare drum. And this snare drum, I just use a really simple plugin. You can use actually the sound shifter pitch of waves to do it, or you can use the quick whack pitch just to make it go up and down. You can pitch it up and down. And there's really a lot of plugins that can do pitching, but most of them are just not sounding so great. In my opinion, the Waves one, the sound shifter pitch, is doing the best job when it comes to good sounding pitches in your mix. So it's basically just going up, and then there's and then there's the special little effects here that I bounce from a bass, and it's basically playing this. It's just really easy. I just playing around with the EX24, and I kind of pitch bended it a little bit. I recorded it and bounced it in place. This way it sounds like the bass is doing the same thing, but it's just a bounce playing of the bass, which I pre-recorded. But it still feels like it's the bass that's playing that part.
Ladies and gentlemen.
So again, here is very, very easy and it's very, very simple sounding. And for example, on this uplifter, I use the compressor. So there's a couple of white noises going on here. And this basically is a crash or like a white noise I've made before and I used in a lot of productions. And I use it as an effect here, or actually as some sort of percussion in the song. But it's just an FX or an impact, I would like a lot of people like to call it. So then there's the break is really a massive, and the massive I just I did the same thing with Metropolis, for example. You just use the options in the massive of the LFO tool or the LFO that you just you put it up to max and then release it real slow, and this way it's gonna sound like this. So just a really easy, massive sound with a lot of LFO on it and an automation that goes from 100 to 1, and it's going to give that effect that Showtek uses a lot in their production.
Let's get ready to rumble!
So then this vocal of Ready to Rumble, a friend of mine is doing kickboxing, and he invited me a lot of times to check out his match and to check out his game. So I went and I got this idea of, hey, why not using a sample from boxing or UFC in a song? I thought it was so full of energy. So we just took the sample from a YouTube video, I bounced it, and then we had it replayed by a special company, and this is the result. So it fits in the song really easily. A lot of people can relate some sort of to the sample, and it gives a lot of energy in your set. Nothing special here, just let's get ready to rumble.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
I use a lot of crowd noise in the song just because you want to give people the illusion that that this part is being played in a match of UFC or boxing where there's audience. So I put in the audience of the crowd effects as a filler just to make it feel more natural.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
So this part, alright, so this part is basically the same as the first drop. The second drop just has like a ride that's playing at the same time, just to give a little more impact. And basically nothing more is playing in this song. So it really is simplicity. It really is the energy of the vocal that makes it sound the way it sounds. And a little quick look at the master chain. A lot of producers think that mastering is the key of making a song sound fat. In my opinion, it's more about the mix. So the mix decides how fat the master is going to sound. I think if a song is mixed well, it does not need a lot of mastering. So if I would switch off my complete master chain here, let me see. It's going to sound almost exactly the same. So the only thing that my master chain is doing is low cutting a part of the song. It is compressing a little bit, giving a little bit more edge here and there, complementing a few frequencies in the mix. I think harmonic EQing is really helping you with mixing to get your song mixed right and to make it sound better. If you want to know how that works, I'll do a different tutorial about that part of mixing. But it kind of means that every frequency and every key in the at your keyboard is linked to certain frequencies. For example, the G is connected to 50 hertz and the F is connected to 40 something. If you know how that works, you can boost certain frequencies and you can leave certain frequencies out. So harmonic EQing, I'll talk about that in a different tutorial, but I did that on this song a little bit because it's just a few elements and you want to make sure they stand out well in the mix and that all the frequencies are covered in the complete mix. So, but the master chain is nothing special. It really levels out your song. It really levels all kinds of different things. And then there's the compressor that does a little bit of, it takes the edges out a little bit, and limiting to make it sound loud, and an inflator of Oxford to make it sound even louder. So if I would go through them all, let's switch them back on. So it really is a gain. The gain doesn't do anything on this track, but sometimes I automate the gain to have a little bit of control over the full mix, especially when it comes to building up to a drop. So then I have a low cut, which I'm not using because I think the low cut influences the mix too much. So to achieve the same effect, I'll use a channel EQ. I don't know why it works like that, but in my opinion, it sounds better than the low cut of Logic. So I did the same thing. I low cut the song at 40.5 hertz, which is quite high for a song in this key because it's playing in F. But still, I thought that the mix would not stand out, or actually would not work on a bigger sound system when it would not be low cut. I think the amps would just not be able to process the low frequencies. So I low cut them at a very, very high frequencies, which is 40.5. And next to that, a little bit of boosting here in the top frequencies, especially around in between 6,000 and 10,000. Then I have a limiter going on, doing not so much. It's not working with any look ahead. It's just a gain of plus 0.5 dB just to take a few of the edges off. I have an Oxford inflator going here that's just making it a little bit louder. A Magic AB just to make sure how it sounds in comparing to other songs. This way you know if it sounds good and if it sounds good enough in comparing to other ones. I used Barricade of Axwell. I think that is a really great sounding song. I emailed him about it because it sounds super fat. My own song, Sound of the Underground, I like to use a couple of songs of John Christian and one of Robbie Rivera. And this way I know, reference-wise, how it should sound like. Well, that it really is the trick behind Ready to Rumble. If you want to know more, make sure that you subscribe to my channel. I'll be doing tutorials and interviews and all kinds of technical stuff on this channel once in a while. So make sure you subscribe here, and I would say good luck with mixing, mastering. Tweet me at Nicky Romero. Ciao.